But yesterday afternoon at MetLife Stadium, the New York Jet defense was amazing. Zach Wilson still stinks. Zach Wilson played the best game of his career. Zach Wilson still stinks. Zach Wilson was awesome on third down. Zach Wilson still stinks. The New York Jets won a football game easily. Zach Wilson still stinks. We got to relax in the fourth quarter of a football game. That's a weird feeling. Zach Wilson still stinks. Two things can be true at the same time. You can be happy with the way the Jets played yesterday afternoon, specifically offensively in the second half. You can be happy with the dominating performance from this defense. You can be happy that Zach Wilson played decisively. You can be happy that Zach played arguably the best half we've ever seen him play. All of that is true and can be true. And simultaneously, with all the respect in the world, you can calmly say in one loud voice, but Zach Wilson still stinks.
Let me ask you something, Evan.
All of that is true, Tiki.
Let me ask you something, Evan.
Sure.
Do you want continual turmoil with your coaching staff?
No.
Do you want Robert Saleh to be out the door and someone else to come in here and start anew? Maybe they have a good relationship with Aaron Rodgers. Maybe they don't. Maybe they draft another quarterback. Do you want turmoil with the New York Jets?
Ideally, I would want everyone to keep their jobs, and I would want the New York Jets to be set to go win a championship in 2024.
Right. Do you think that Zach Wilson, if he keeps playing this way for the next 4 weeks, is a valuable quarterback?
No.
That he's refound himself?
No.
But do you think somebody else would think that?
No.
All right, here's the best thing that can happen for the New York Jets. And the start of it was the second half of yesterday afternoon. Zach Wilson goes and balls.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson helps the New York Jets win games. And the reason I say that is because winning cures a lot of negativity. Winning helps Robert Saleh and Nate Hackett and Jeff Ulbrich and everybody else on this staff stay in Florham Park. And so you finally have some continuity and consistency and competency at the head coaching and staffing position. That could happen. Number two, whether or not you love Zach Wilson or not, doesn't matter. The question is, will somebody else love Zach Wilson?
Tiki.
If he plays great and the Jets keep winning, not that they're going anywhere. This isn't about getting to the playoffs and doing X, Y, and Z. This is just about feeling positive. The Jets haven't had this consistently in a long time. They've had it defensively all season long. But if Zach Wilson keeps playing great, not only is he going to help this staff stay here, but he's also going to make himself valuable potentially to someone else. We've seen this all season long. Quarterbacking in the NFL sucks.
Yes.
Not to use that word that we hate now, but it stinks.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bad ones. And so the most important thing you can have is have a good backup quarterback.
Oh, no,
and if
don't
Zach
do this.
Wilson
Don't do this.
puts himself in position to be that for somebody, I don't think he's here.
Yeah,
I was on record with this last year.
Tiki. Stop right there. You have whined a beautiful story.
Yes.
A great story. A story of Zach plays well, and then Joe Douglas can confuse some buffoonery team to give you a third-round pick.
Not buffoonery.
And everybody's happy.
Desperate.
Fine. Except that's not the story I see happening. The story I see happening is this franchise and some in this fan base fall back in love with the idea of Zach Wilson, as if the first 32 games this man started doesn't count. So while you've put out a beautiful idea of, but Evan, if he plays well, you could trade him, you can get a pick back, everybody's happy, that's not what I see. What I see, and I enjoyed yesterday, I want my team to win, but what I thought about after this performance was how some in this organization and some in this fan base are going to fall back in love with Zach and run it back.
No.
They cannot run it back.
That's so.
Two things can be true. Zach played well. Good for him. He balled. If you think he should be on this roster next year, you need your head examined.
Did I say that?
No, but I can see that's where it goes.
Okay, but does it matter if a fan base thinks that?
No,
Or
the
does it matter?
organization may think that.
Okay. As long as Aaron Rodgers doesn't think that, then I think you're going to be okay. Look, Zach Wilson needs to be in a place where he can reset himself. Right? This fan base might have cheered for him yesterday. The 20,000 people that were there. I mean, it was empty. It was an empty stadium. The weather sucks, so I get it. But they cheered him because he was successful. If he would have went the other way, they would have booed him. Right? I don't think that this fan base is going to fall back in love with Zach Wilson.
Will the organization?
The only way to do that is he's got to earn it. And the only way the organization does it is if he puts together game after game after game after game after game. And that might not happen because Aaron Rodgers might come back, according to TMZ, apparently. Right? He could come back at Christmas.
Well, I'll tell you, that's the best thing that could ever happen to this franchise because what I said to you last week holds very true on this Monday. What concerned me last week when we were having the discussion on who should play quarterback for the New York Jets was, well, if Zach comes out and plays halfway decent, I can see this organization falling back in love with him. I can see some in this fan base falling back in love with him and almost trying to explain why he should come back next year. We should all know by now. We should know better now that Zach Wilson, nice kid. I give him credit for yesterday. I don't want to diminish what he did yesterday. That's why I say two things can be true. You can play well and also realize what he is, which is a guy who can't quarterback here anymore. My concern last week was if you let this kid play and he plays well, you could somehow have this organization fall back in love with him. And that's what I'm already starting to hear today. I'm sort of starting to hear it from you. Because you're like, well, other teams are going to fall in love. Right. Well, if other teams are going to fall in love, what would stop the Jets from falling in love? They needed to rip this Band-Aid off and move the hell on.
Because they know better. If the Jets don't know better, shame on them.
Oh, well, shame on them.
Because I don't think that Zach – first of all, coming into this season, I didn't think it ever made sense to hang on to Zach Wilson.
Agreed.
Not because I hated the kid. He's a terrible quarterback. We knew the circumstances of the Mike LaFleur era and the early non-development of him as a quarterback and the injuries, all that stuff. We know it all, right? But also the timing doesn't work. It doesn't work to make a decision on his fifth-year option next year when he's not going to play with Aaron Rodgers. And so it's almost better for him if he just gets to restart someplace else early. Now, he's going into his fourth year next year. They're not going to pick up his fifth-year option. So is it good to have a backup quarterback on his second overall pick on his fourth year of his rookie deal? In most places, maybe. But not when you're paying your quarterback $100 million.
And not when you already know the answer to what he is.
Exactly. And so, to me, it never made sense for him to be here next year. It really didn't make sense for him to be here this year, but it definitely doesn't make sense to be there next year. So the value in Zach Wilson, for me, is play good football, make yourself attractive to someone else, and then get some value for the Jets on your way out the door. That's what I feel about Zach. And honestly, I think Zach's people probably are saying the same thing.
If that happens, fantastic. Because you're right, that's the best case scenario.
Yes.
Where I'm disagreeing with you.
And you have to think of it from a best case scenario.
Okay, but I don't think that's going to happen because I don't trust this organization.
It's the same old Jets?
Well, yes. I hate to say that because it's a cliche, but yes, sir. To answer your question, yes, I don't trust them. I don't trust that they're going to see through this. And look, I don't want to sit here and go through all the things he didn't do that well yesterday because what bothers me is when Zach Wilson is halfway decent. When Zach Wilson puts a couple of good drives together.
He was more than halfway decent yesterday.
In the second half, he played well. They had 3 good drives. That's what he had. That's the reality. He had 3 good drives. And the most impressive drive was after his fumble, which could have brought the Texans back in the game and sort of did because they marched down the field. They got the benefit of that, double penalty, the PI, the roughing the passer, and they marched down the field and scored a touchdown. Not only did the Texans miss their extra point, which was big, but to Zach's credit, the Jets then marched down the field themselves.
75 yards and a touchdown. 10 plays, touchdown.
He had 3 good drives. After that, the points were tacked on because the Texans were going for it deep in their own territory, and 3 and outs turned into 3 points, 3 points, and 3 points. So he had 3 very good drives, and I don't minimize that. He played well in those 3 drives. But it seems like when Zach Wilson does anything halfway decent, we all have to go times it by 10. Times it by 50. He had 3 good drives. He did not flip a switch yesterday and become the future. I'm sorry. And if you think that, you're delusional. We need to see more for anybody to think that. There were 3 good drives.
Okay,
and I feel bad that I'm raining on the kids' parade, but I'm raining on the parade because I'm scared of this franchise, and I'm scared of this fan base that's falling back in love with him.
You know what?
They had 1 good half.
But
now he's Dan Marino?
No, I don't think anybody is saying that about Zach. I really don't. I think they understand exactly what he did yesterday. He took some shots. What we've been saying for months. Just throw the ball, Zach. I know C.J. Ozamo's covered. Just throw it to him. You've done it before. Do it again. He did it twice in this game. 2 humongous plays.
He did, yes.
Right? When things get hectic, just throw it to your check down. Throw it to your running back. Guess what? He's a pretty damn good player in Breece Hall, right? 85 yards on how many receptions he had, 8 or 10, whatever it was, right? Just throw it, check it down, get rid of the ball. There was one where he had a dog right in his face, coming untouched. He calmly just stood there, saw Breece, got it out to him, first down on 3rd and 4, whatever it was. So Zach, when he plays calm like that, is a good player. He's not a great player. I don't think he's going to be a great player, but winning is important.